If you have ever said, "I can't even draw a stick figure," I've got good news. The best part about drawing is that anybody at any age can start at any time. And it's good for you. A lot of professionals talk about how drawing is stress relieving, it is good for PTSD or anxiety. Hi, I'm Oak Anthony, and today I am not quite Bob Ross. I'm here to show you how to utilize artist resources to learn how to draw. I'm going to walk you through the steps of finding these resources and then using them. Despite the title, I do not condone replication or stealing of someone's artwork or art style. This video is about teaching yourself to draw in your own way using resources that are readily available. Copying someone or creating an exact duplicate of their preferred style or drawing is not okay. There's a difference between emulation and stealing. Stealing ethically means taking lessons from your favorite artist and applying them to your own work. Don't steal. Stealing is bad. People who share their art on the internet a lot of times are little digital libraries of knowledge. Even if they don't intend to be, over time people share their process to the point where you are able to learn from them to create your own art. Now, this is actually a new development. It's something that happened maybe in the last 6 to 8 years. When I was a new artist back in the mid-2000s, digital art was secretive. Artists didn't want you stealing their techniques, and I think we've reached a place nowadays where that's no longer the case. There's a reasonable expectation that new artists will learn from seasoned artists. It's completely normal for artists to share their techniques. It's completely normal for people to pick up their current processes from people who've been doing this for a long time. So that's where I recommend you start. A few years ago, I came across an artist named Sachin Teng. They did really amazing surrealist pieces. You may have seen them before. I have this comic right next to me. I promise I didn't actually even plan this. I just keep this comic next to my desk. If you look at the video from last week when I did a tour of my house, you'll see this comic just kind of lives next to my computer because I really love Sachin's work. And that's where I recommend you start, is find artists online that you really admire. Once you find those artists, start searching for tutorials or how-tos. So a few years ago, I typed in Sachin Teng tutorial, and lo and behold, there was one. And it's still available today. I'll even link it below if you're curious about their process. And a lot of major artists have resources like this completely free. They'll share what programs they use, what brushes they use, the layer types that they add to their pieces of art, the Photoshop techniques. It's a really good place to start, and it'll give you some tools that you can kind of start playing around with to figure out what you actually want to do. There are communities like Skillshare or Lynda that also have artist tutorials available for you to study. They are behind a paywall. Patreon is another really excellent resource if you find an artist that you love and they have a Patreon. Odds are a lot of their process is hidden behind that paywall. And I understand if you don't have the budget currently to pay for those resources, and luckily there's still plenty available completely for free. So don't let it discourage you if you find your favorite artist and then discover that the only way you can learn their technique is through, a $10 a month Patreon. That's okay. Maybe one day you will get there. If you're not there right now, completely fine. There are alternatives. There are other artists who use similar techniques who also have really beautiful styles of art that you can try to emulate. I personally have used many tablets. I currently own a Cintiq and an iPad. Between the two, I do prefer the iPad. simply because it has like a cordless flexibility. I can draw anywhere at any time. It actually changed my life getting the iPad, because before I had it, I was drawing once a month maybe, because I had to actually force myself to sit down in front of the computer, set everything up, log in, set up, sit down, and focus. And that's not always easy, especially for artistic types. We tend to flit all over the place, and acquiring the iPad really changed that for me. This is not an iPad commercial though. The iPad Pro, which is what I use, is very expensive, and there are some cheaper or even free alternatives. So if you are on that zero budget, just starting out, trying to figure out if this is for you, here's your free alternative. You go analog. So you draw pencil on paper. And it's old school, but it works. It's a classic for a reason. What I used to do back before I had access to any sort of tablets is I did draw. I would draw on pen and paper. I would take it to my local print shop and have it scanned. My print shop at the time would scan for free. It didn't cost anything. And I would upload it to my computer, and then I would use Photoshop, which was acquired by less than legal means, and in there I would color. To bring it back to the artists that you admire, your favorite artists, they will inevitably share the hardware that they are using online, if only to complain about losing their tablet pen, because that is an affliction that happens to all of us. I can't explain it, so you can find out just searching through someone's Twitter feed or on Instagram what hardware they're using. Are they using a Wacom tablet? Are they using a Huon? Hardware will not make or break you, but it will make things easier in the long run. So I definitely encourage you to start small and build up from there, and maybe have your favorite artist's hardware as like a goal in the future. And once you figure out the hardware, you can then figure out the software. A lot of artists are also really open about sharing which programs they use. Earlier this year, I switched from Medibang to Procreate. Several of my favorite online artists, people like Stephanie Pepper, Babstar, they would use Procreate in their digital illustrations, and I really wanted to try it out. At first, I found it agonizing. It's really hard to start from scratch. And honestly, that's just the way that art works in general. I have been doing this for 20 years, and starting up Procreate for the first time, that first week that I used it was agonizing. I used Medibang for years, and I do highly recommend it. It is free, so it's another alternative. If you are on a budget, Medibang is probably a great source for you. But I once again recommend tapping into your favorite artist and seeing what they use. If they use something that you are able to acquire yourself, give it a try and see if you can emulate the things you love about that artist and their work. Once you have those three pieces together, an artist tutorial outlining how they make the thing that you love, and the hardware and software that they use, the final piece of this puzzle is emulation. So this is the actual hard part. This is where you put your pen to glass. And now you might immediately start hitting the brakes on this video, saying like, well, Oak, I don't know how human bodies work. I don't know how to draw a mountain. How does perspective work? Yeah, this is where the learning part of the process begins. So you've gathered all your resources, now you're ready to actually learn. Here are like the very specific steps I personally take in order to educate myself. First, I find a beloved piece of art by this artist that I love. I find my favorite piece, and I ask myself, what do I like about this? What am I trying to emulate? And then I try to emulate it. When you combine those elements along with the tutorials, if you found tutorials, you're going to get something that is beyond a stick figure. Congratulations, you have drawn something. And look, if you're starting from absolutely nothing, it probably will not be the strongest piece of art. But
dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sorta good at something.
I am going to finish this off by sharing my whole kit. Like, this is everything that I use to be a better artist. And I will link everything below if you would like to acquire it for yourself. This works very specifically for me, so I really don't know if it will work for you. Hopefully it will. But this is my favorite book. I reference it a lot when creating art. Fashion magazines are my favorite human form reference. So if I'm drawing a portrait of someone, I am looking at magazines and magazine websites. They have a lot of beautiful editorial photo shoots that you can look at. For hardware, I use almost exclusively my 11-inch 2019 iPad Pro and Apple Pencil. I love them a lot. I work in Procreate. I mentioned earlier this is a new development. Before this, I worked in Medibang. I do recommend both of them. The brushes that I use in Procreate are from Stephanie Pepper and Max Packs. Stephanie Pepper's brushes are in her Patreon. You can sign up for just 1 month, download the brushes, and then unsub if you want to. But I really do highly recommend them because they're some of the best drawing brushes I've ever used in a digital format ever. And then her Patreon in general is also really great. I do recommend it. So nothing that I linked is going to be monetized, but what is monetized is my Patreon if you're interested in learning a little bit more. I'm actually Oak Antony everywhere on the internet, on Instagram and Twitter, if you'd like to follow me there. And you can also just subscribe here. Like right now, you can subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to put out videos every week. I'm really in love with creating video content right now. So every little hint of encouragement means so much to me. Anyways, thank you for hanging out today. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I am here to help. I will see you in the next one. Bye!